Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be working on my oven. As you may have noticed in the van tour video that one of the knobs is missing, so that actually means that this gas ring doesn't work at the moment. We've only got one gas ring, the grill and the oven. I won't open it because it squeaks a lot. So today I'm going to try and put the gas knob back on. I've got this over here. I found it on the floor one day. I'll do a close-up of it. I've done a bit of research online and I haven't really been able to find like a service manual or a workshop manual or anything for these ovens. It's an antique Calor gas oven, also known as a Flavel, a B600 model. I can't believe there's nothing out there. I managed to find like a sales brochure and that sort of thing, but nothing really concrete on how to take it apart. So I'm really going to be learning as I go. Hopefully this might be useful to someone else who's also had this problem. The one thing I've managed to struggle with is I can find a replacement knob on eBay, but I think what's happened is the grub screw has fallen out. It's fallen out on the floor, and when we've been sweeping up, it's just been carried away with the other dirt 'cause it's so small. I've bought a selection of grub screws. They're all metric, and I've got a feeling that because this is a bit older, it's like a 60s or 70s oven, that actually this is an imperial thread. So the one that I've got in here, it doesn't fit very well, but I'm hoping that I can just sort of jam it in there and it won't come out again because it'll be cross-threaded into the brass. So, but we'll see what happens. I might have to, once we get this apart and work out how this is meant to go back on, I might have to order a part and come back to it another day. But anyway, that's enough waffle. Let's break this thing down and see how we go. So, first things first, let's take the grills off. Let's put them in the sink for safekeeping. You can see over the years, like the paint has burnt off of these slightly. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on the camera, but just through the heat. But the rest of it's in fairly good condition, really, for the age of it. I've had this for quite a long time. I had it in my first campervan. Well, technically my second. My first campervan also had one. I sold it with that, and then when I did my second VW-T4 conversion, I bought this one for it, and then I liked it so much that I took it out of the van and installed it in this when I did it. One of the things I found was when I was driving along was that it rattled quite a lot, and it's a bit grim under there. So I put this like rubber strip around the edge just to tighten up the fit around the top of the oven, and it doesn't rattle at all. It's actually done really quite well. So I don't know if you can see, but these are just held on with clips, and you can literally just pop it up off the oven. So put that face down because that's the cleaner side than on the worktop. So next thing's next. Let's see, how's this come away? There's a couple of screws up the top here, so let's try taking this off. There's some people coming past. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little leveling screw with a lock nut, and this literally just goes into the top on each side and on the back as well. This just helps if you are on a bit of a wonk when you're installing it. You can just level up your grill top hob. Level up your hob. So we'll keep those safe because we need those for coming back. So that's that. Oh, I'm gonna have to get these knobs off as well, so that's going to be tricky. Let's take these screws off from behind here. Or no, let's take this. So the burners, they're just like loose fit. There's a little clamp thing that holds those on. I've had these off before, but yeah, no, the gas just flows in here and then pops out the burner, and that's when you light it. So let's stop those from making a horrible noise if they fall out. And similarly, the grill burner, they just come out as well. These are a bit grim. I managed to find a new old stock pair of those on eBay, so I've got those and I'll install those, I think, when I put this back together. Right, so that's almost all of the loose stuff out. Let's take the grill out, the gas supply for the grill. The back of here is just a wing nut bolt and a washer, and that's what's holding these. That's what's holding these clips on that hold the grill burners in place and the hob burners in place. So again, put those one side, and then this big chunk of metal is what supplies the grill burner with gas. So anyway, so that's the most of the top broken down. So I've got my crosshead screwdriver, and there's two little screws in here that hold this faceplate on. Two what look like self-tapping screws. Hello, you alright?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Just taking my oven apart.
Nice in there.
Yeah? Do you want to stick your head in and have a look?
Yeah. This is
All
alright.
nice to chat to you.
See you around, yeah.
Yeah, see you soon. Sorry about that, one of my neighbours just popped in to say hello. He's thinking about buying a VW Caddy, and I've got one of those as well. So he's been picking my brains. Anyway, so that's the second screw out. So this won't come off now, unless we get these off. So how do these come off? Can we work it out from this? There's a clip on here. I don't know if you can see this. There's a clip that goes around there. I'm not too sure what that does. I'm a bit reluctant to really yank on it in case it fractures the knob. I'm a bit worried about the fact it's like 40 or 50-year-old plastic. But I might not have a choice. So how does this come out? I might have to puzzle on this a bit, and through the joy of editing, you'll probably come back once I figure it out. Anyway, give me a minute. Okay, so I'm not really getting too far with this. I'm just going to try taking. There's 4 more screws on the top of here that allows this panel to come away from the oven completely. So I'll try taking those off and see if that gets us any closer. I'm literally just taking things off until the situation reveals itself, really. Actually, there's also some gas pipes on there which I'm going to take off as well. Yeah, I definitely think this is all Imperial stuff, because I've just put a 14mm spanner on this nut, this gas pipe that goes to the oven, and the spanner's a little bit loose. So just being careful. I don't want to round this nut off, because yeah, that could write the whole thing off. And I might have to see if it's a flared pipe or something. Yeah, it's got a flare on it, so maybe a little bit of PTFE tape, gas PTFE tape, when I put that back together. Because it's got some sort of red thread lock or something. Let's see. And then I've also got the gas inlet pipe. Yeah, and I've also got the gas inlet pipe on the left-hand side of this. So we'll just take these off. So yeah, this bar's now free to come off if I undo these 4 screws. these things are just designed in a different era. I just feel like everything's designed now with some sort of thermoplastic or whatever it is, that you can't really take things apart, whereas 40 or 50 years ago these things were just put together with screws, so you can just take things apart, and they're just all designed in a different manner. We've changed our thinking in the past half decade to how we put things together. Right, so you can see this is the bar that I was talking about. It's like the manifold that you got the two hobs, the grill and the oven. So that's all off now, and there was 4 screws, 2 up there, and then this was where the levelling blocks were, and then there was 2 screws in here holding that onto this front plate. So anyway, that's the most I've ever had this thing apart, so let's see if this helps me any. I'm not too sure that it does. At least now I can have a good look round it. Okay, so I've had to take this back plate off that was held on with these jets. I'm assuming they're jets because they've got a tiny little pinhole in them. So they were like that. So I've taken those off. So let's put them to one side for now. And that's given me a bit more access to this area. Ideally, I could do with getting this plate off, but I think to do that I've got to take the knobs off, which is basically the opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this knob on. So I think what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, because you're happily sat there watching me fumble around, is just pop this in. So there's also a little spring that I've managed to keep hold of, which goes in the centre of this. There's a little recess with a stop end in it, so it just sort of sits in there, and then that goes in. Oh, it's falling out. I think this is the sort of thing we need about 6 hands to do it. So that goes in there, and then the next challenge is going to be getting the grub screw in the hole. I wonder if I can turn this valve, bring the female thread of the knob closer to the top. How can I do this without having a knob in it? Yes, I said knob. I keep saying knob. Turn it into a drinking game. Go back to the beginning of the video and see how many times I say knob. Let me know in the comments. Oh, there we go. Look, put a screwdriver in there and it turns it. So that brings it closer to a bit where I can actually get to. Now the next problem I've got is that this little grub screw that I've got as a replacement is so small I don't actually have an Allen key that fits it. So I don't know, I'm going to try with a pair of thin nose pliers to get this all back together. But honestly, if this was Facebook, I'd be saying let's get some thoughts and prayers on the go, because this is going to be one hell of a Hail Mary if this all works. Right, so the knob is in the hole, and now, without really being able to see anything, and with this faceplate kind of in the way, I've got to try and thread this into there without the right tool. Yeah, and once that goes in there, I'm not going to be able to get those pliers on it. So I think I am a bit scuppered, but that's certainly going to work because I'm turning the knob in the valve, and it's actually operating it. So I think what I need to do, I need to get online and find the corresponding Allen key to get into this. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, but get into there, and yeah, then I'll be able to tighten this down. So I'm meant to be going camping next weekend, so I'm hoping I can get this all done in time. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, cold food for me. Anyway, right, to be continued. The magic of editing, you'll just see this when I've got the right tool, or you'll just see the van on fire because I've lost it and set fire to it. Anyway, see you in a bit. Right, so I've just been down to Screwfix, picked up this set of metric and imperial Allen keys or hex keys or L keys or whatever you want to call them, just for this tiny little 1.3mm hex key. So hopefully we can now get this little badger situated where it needs to go. So let's give this another go. Let's put the spring in. Let's put the knob in the hole. Take another shot if you're playing the game. That is about there. Sorry, you guys probably can't see much of what I'm doing here, but it's really fiddly. So I'm now lining up the thread, the female thread, so I can get this 2.5mm grub screw to go in the thread. That's not going to work. So as I said before, I think this is meant to have an imperial grub screw, which would make sense if it's a 70s oven, but I'm putting in a stainless steel metric grub screw, which is not ideal, but as it's stainless and the thing that's going into is brass, the stainless will cut its own thread and it will ruin the thread. I'm under no illusion, and feel free to chastise me in the comments if you like, but realistically I just want this to work, and it doesn't actually need to come out again. In practice I'd actually really rather like it not to come out again, because then I won't have to go through this again. So yeah, pros and cons. Let me know what you think. Maybe I should have just done a bit more research and got an imperial one. So that now works again, which is blinding. Well, hopefully not blinding, but good. Good. This is what it sounds like when I talk to myself. So I think that's as far as I'm going to go, because then it still engages. There's a little slot there so it's a slot with two little divots, and the grub screw, when it's off, and when it's in the off position, sits in a divot, and you have to push on that spring to release it and turn it, and then you get to full gas flow, and then you turn it, you push it back in, and you turn it some more, and then that's where you've got your range of burn. So good, I'm happy with that. That is back on. So let's put this plate back on, which went on there like that before, and let's put this one, has got some red goo on it. I'm not too sure what that is, but let's put it back in the hole that it came out of, because that's obviously got red goo on it. Technical term, red goo. And then put these little, I'm assuming they're gas jets, I don't know if they've got another name. And this is the one for the oven. The oven has a solid pipe that goes from the valve, from the manifold here to the oven. Right, so they're nearly finger tight. Get them all lined up. That was finger tight, that was finger tight, that one, and then I've got a selection of spanners here. Again, these are metric spanners on an imperial size nut, so I need to be really careful, because on this one, on the oven one, I've actually rounded it slightly, trying to undo it. So these were done up really tight, so I need to try and get them as tight as I can without rounding off the brass, because then it will be impossible to tighten up afterwards. And then I've got to use this adjustable horrible thing I don't like using them. Apologies, my camera stopped recording for some reason. No idea why. Right, so these are all tightened up now. So it is time to put this back on the oven. So I'll move you guys and then we'll get on from there. Right, so you're back where you started. So this is the hard pipe that goes from the manifold back to the oven, to the burner in there, and then this is the gas in, and this is the bracket where the grill manifold rests. So let's put you back in place, and then we will get this back together, which is good. I thought I was going to have a real stumbling block without that Allen key. I should have thought about that before starting the job. However, screw fix to the rescue. Right, so that's sort of back there. Let's find some screws. Let's not shout into the microphone. And here we go. Now, what I really need to not do is drop a screw down the side of my oven because it's bolted in, and I would have to remove quite a lot of my van to rescue a screw that goes down the right hand side of my oven. That would really be disappointing if such a thing were to occur. Right, so I'm just putting in these 4 screws that hold the manifold to the oven. Get my English right. So I've just done one either side to start off with, and then rather than doing 2 on one side, it's nothing worse than tightening something up to find out the other side doesn't line up. So, right, okay, they're all as tight as they started. You don't really have to tighten things within an inch of its life. I think you're more likely to do damage if you do so. I think you're likely to strip a thread, or you just need to know that it's home. So there's slang for such a thing, FT and VFT and other things. If there's more, let me know, because I only know FT and VFT. I'm not going to say those because I don't know who's watching, but if you're curious, Google it. So I'm just putting in the little self-tapping type screws that hold the faceplate to the sides. I'm calling it a faceplate. I'm assuming that's what it might be. And one of the things I try and do is I just I start things off by hand rather than using a tool. I do this with nuts and bolts and screws if I can. It just means that if you do have a thread, you don't damage the thread that you're going into. Kind of ironic considering what I've just done with a grub screw on that valve, on that knob. But you know, I do try to preserve threads wherever possible, with the idea of having to take them out again in the future. So now I'm just fitting the little levelling stalks back in, because they hold the faceplate to the manifold with these. So you get these to the height you want to, and then you just tighten the locking nuts down to the height that you're after. Right, so the faceplate is now back on. So that is now working like a dream. So these are all working happily. So now I need to get the gas back connected. Well, I was going to put some PTFE tape on there. Let's do that. Right, so I've just grabbed some PTFE tape. Now it's worth noting here that this is gas tape. There's 2 types. There's at least a minimum of 2 types. There's gas, and there's also PTFE for water. So make sure that if you're doing anything with gas, that you use the right sort of PTFE tape. It's worth saying that you've got to be incredibly confident what you're doing with gas. If you're not confident or you're hesitant at all, don't do it. Ask a professional. I am very much taking the risk in my own hands. So this is very much all at my own risk that I'm doing this. So I've just pulled off a piece because trying to get normally I'd just wrap the reel around whatever I'm going on to, but space is a bit tight here, so I'm just going to wrap this round. And what I want to try and avoid doing is getting any PTFE tape in the way of the flow of gas. And similarly, if you're doing it with water, make sure that it doesn't inhibit the flow at all, because you'll find you'll have a problem. Right, so that's got PTFE tape on it now. So I'm just going to push the pipe up to the manifold and then start the nut by hand. It's got quite a fine thread on it, so it might take quite a bit of turning to get it to tighten up. Obviously, the more thread something has, the more you need to turn it. Right, so 14mm spanner, that's what I'm using. And it's just going to be a case of tightening this up until it feels like it's home. Okay, so this has just come tight, and I'm just putting a bit of pressure on it, so I know that it's not over tight. It's tight. I know it's not going to come loose, and it feels like it's made a good seal, so that no gas is going to leak out. Yeah, if I go any more, I'm likely to damage something. Right, so next is the gas supply. And this one's got a copper olive on it, so I'm just going to do this nut back up. Just done it by hand to start off with, just to make sure it doesn't cross thread. Get it going nicely, and I can be confident to tighten this up. I'm just using my adjustable just to hold the. It's gone from an 8mm pipe to a 10mm pipe, I think, and the plumber who fitted it has used a couple of compression joints here, so I just need to hold one while I tighten up the other. There we go. Again, with compression joints, you don't want to go too tight, because you can over tighten them and they actually leak, which is definitely not good with gas, certainly not good with water. Anything leaking is bad, really, isn't it? So right, let's put this thing back together. So manifold for the grill, that went like that, and then the clips that hold the grill on and hold the burners in place, the burner manifolds in place. So they go on with a quite large washer, penny washer, sometimes referred to as, and then the wing nut bolt. So I'm just going to start off with the wing nut bolt. Just get that started with the washer. So that's started now, and then I can slip, because these are a U-shape. Because these are U-shaped, I can then slip these behind where they need to go, if I can remember how they go. So there we go. They'll just slip behind now. Tighten this down. Okay, so that's in place. I've put one of them the wrong way up. Typical. There we go. These do, it turns out they do have a little bend in the little kink, so I had it that way up, but it actually needs to go that way to act like a spring to hold the part down, hold the burner down. So let's just slip that in. There we go. Right, so let's put the old grill back on. like I said, I do have replacements for these. One end's got a wider and a thinner, and they've got corresponding slots on the manifold on the. There we go. That's one home, and then this is the other home. In a minute, which means they're handed, so you can only put them in one way. So yeah, just be careful when you. Just take your time. No prize for getting it done first time. No prize for getting it wrong. No prize for getting it right. Just take your time. Right, put the burner back in. So I'm just going to do the manifold end in first, and then slide the back across. And they've got a little locating pin, it looks like, but I can't see. Oh no, I've put it in the wrong place, that's why. There we go. So it's on top. So yeah, there's a little locating pin on the top, and that pops into the back. So again, these are all designed in a different era, and it does make servicing them easy, possible, even though you have no manual, or you just start taking stuff apart, and it just sort of makes sense. So I'll just show you guys. So you can see this is the wing nut bolt that I've tightened down, and then the spring parts that hold the burners into the manifold, and then the locating pin goes up there, and again is held down by this spring whilst it's on the manifold here. Right, so let's put the top back on. Haven't left any parts on it, no. Right, give us a good clean after. There we go. Pop it down, and then put the tops back on, and there we have it. One oven now with a knob. One final shot for those of you that are playing along. Anyway, so I'll give this a test next. Just make sure it's working. I'll probably do that off camera just in case anything goes wrong. Don't really want to video that. But sod it. Let's do that. Let's give it a test. Let's go and turn the gas on. Right, so I've just turned the gas on. Go on, Chester. Okay, so now comes time to set in. I've opened the door just to make sure. Let's try the one that I know works beforehand. Not that not that I'm superstitious, but let's just make sure that this works before I test that one. So this is a USB chargeable mini cattle pod, basically. Sounds pretty nasty and gives a high pitch. Anyway, it's fun. Let's do fire. Yeah, okay. So the right hand one works. That's good. Let's try the left hand one, and that's now working again. Fantastic. And it's got the full range of thermal control. Sounds a bit posh, that, doesn't it? Thermal control. It's got the full range of movement, and gives you less hot or more hot, depending on what you need. Sounds a bit less formal, doesn't it? Let's try the grill, just make sure. My thing seems to stop working. What was that? There we go, back on. There we go. Yeah, grill's fine. And we can just test the oven. Sorry about the nasty squeak. And yeah, the oven's back on as well. Wonderful. So, one fully working oven. Put that away. So there we have it. Calor B600. Taking the front apart, you can see it's all just nuts and bolts really. It's quite straightforward. Nuts, bolts, screws. More screws than anything else. Quite straightforward. Things were made more simply back in the day. So this doesn't make life difficult. I'd thoroughly recommend doing this little rubber stripping along here, all the way around. It just stops the thing from rattling. The only thing you've got a source of rattle in is the burner tops, which you can't really do a lot about. But this, yeah, is a game changer. Leave me a comment. Anything that you see that you think I should have done better, or is a glaring error, then yeah, just let me know. Obviously, like the video, subscribe if you're new here. I imagine most of you are new here because it's a new channel. I actually started at the beginning of the year. But yeah, hopefully that's given you a bit of confidence behind how easy it is to do some of the things in your van, especially if you bought one. If it's something that you've bought that someone else has built, something's not quite working, you can just get involved and just have a go. But yeah, so this is it. So I'll end it for now, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.